Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Ritza, downtown Toronto chiropractor, acupuncture provider, manual and rehab therapist, talking to you from the King West Club in downtown Toronto today. So what we're going to talk about today, guys, is the core. One of the things I talk about most with my patients in terms of spinal health is having good core strength, and I find there's a lot of confusion on what the core is and what it does. So basically what the core musculature is anything that sits between the two diaphragms. Anything between the diaphragm that controls breathing that sits at the base of the lungs, at the base of the rib cage, and the pelvic diaphragm that sits at the base of the pelvis. Between these two spots is your core. I would also include the glute musculature with it because it's important for stabilizing the pelvis and provides a lot of strength to the low back. So basically what the role of the core is to allow a couple of things. First off, transfer forces from the lower limbs to the upper limbs. So generally you're only working the core in an exercise if both the upper and the lower limbs are engaged and force is being required to transfer through them. Another important function of the core is to, of course, stabilize the spine. Research out of the University of Waterloo and other universities has shown that core stability is important because otherwise the spine will just topple over. Those muscles that insert into the spine, they keep it erect and in the proper position so that the joints don't bump into each other and the discs don't herniate. It doesn't take an extreme amount of force in order for the core to do its job. It's estimated that it's very, very low, only in the range of 10-20% of your maximal core contraction or even less. So what we're doing when we're doing core exercises is they don't have to be extremely complicated to be really, really good. There's a few that are really, really effective. The first thing you need to be able to do any core exercise is what's called the abdominal brace. So abdominal bracing is the same sensation as if you feel like you're going to get punched. It's when the core tightens up over the entire front and the back of the abdomen, and it feels like, or it has the same feeling or look as if you're wearing a corset. And what you can envision is that the corset or your musculature is coming together, holding the spine in its place, as well as the abdominal contents. When we do this, we know that the back, for the most part, is in a very stable position where it's less likely to be injured. Whenever you're doing any core work, we want to make sure that we're doing a good abdominal brace, often with the glute musculature really tight. If you're not doing this and your core is just really floppy, you're not working the core. If you're doing a supine bridge or you're doing a plank and you can hold it for 2 minutes, odds are that either you have incredible core strength or you're probably not doing it properly and the core and the back are not in the right position. It should be really tough to hold a plank for more than 30 seconds or a minute. An additional thing that I want to mention when we're doing any core work, and something that I often do with my patients, is suggest that we do core work more but for less time. The core operates very quickly and sporadically. While it's on all of the time at a very low level contraction to stabilize the spine, during sport or activity it fires quickly and strongly periodically. So in a study done at the University of Waterloo with George St. Pierre as the specimen, what they found was that when George goes to do a roundhouse kick, his core contracts very tight to initiate the kick to get the leg moving, and then relaxes, and then his core contracts very tight again as the foot is about to impact the body that he's going to hit. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to do an abdominal brace, also do an abdominal hollow, and this is the very first step in any low back rehab program before we get into the more advanced exercises, and something that whether you're an expert lifter, you should be working your abdominal bracing when you're doing your squats, your deadlift, your core work, your bench press. Everything that we do in the gym, we want to be focusing on the abdominal brace and making sure that our spine is in a good, stable position. Okay guys, so what we're going to work on right now is the abdominal brace versus hollowing. I'm amazed sometimes at the number of people I see that come in that think they have good core strength or are moving around heavy weights in the gym, but their ability to abdominal brace and engage their core is actually quite poor, and they find quite great difficulty with it. If you're one of my patients or a low back pain sufferer, this is the first thing that anybody gets and we talk about, so that I know when you're doing a core exercise, you're doing it properly and engaging your core, and that you have the ability to laying down, and we can progress you to doing some more intense exercises. So how you're going to do this is we're going to work on laying down and transition between bracing and hollowing. So what the abdominal hollow is activating that transverse abdominis muscle. It's a muscle that wraps around like a cummerbund and works on pulling the stomach back. The cue for engaging the transverse abdominis is trying to suck your belly button back towards the spine, whereas the cue for engaging or embracing the core is protecting like you're going to get punched. So what we're going to do is brace, hollow, alternating between those for 5 repetitions for 5 to 10 seconds of each. Take a break, and we're going to do 3 to 4 sets of those a couple of times throughout the day. So for the abdominal breaks, we lay down, we can have one knee up and one knee down, and if I were in the office, I would cue hitting you, and no, not actually hit you, and you're going to work on keeping that core nice and tight with about 30 or 40% of what you got. What you'll feel is on the back, the side, and the front, these muscles are tight and contracting in to protect the abdomen. So we do that, we hold that for 5 to 10 seconds, take a break, and now what we're going to work on is the hollow. So how we know if we're doing the hollow correctly is you find your bone here, your ASIS, and you move down, or sorry, you move in and down about 1 inch. And when you work on pulling that belly button back towards the spine, you'll feel a little bump or a muscle push up into your finger. If you need a little help, get your healthcare practitioner or your trainer to show you how to do this or where you should be feeling. But usually if you come in and roll off that bony prominence and you suck that belly button back towards the spine, you'll feel the transverse abdominis engage, and you'll know that you're doing it correctly. So like I said, we'll alternate between these 2 activities on and off for 5 or 6 times. We'll do 3 sets of those a couple times throughout the day, and when we notice that we're grooved really well into being able to differentiate the 2 muscles, we know we can progress into the more intense and front core exercises.